part of the Eclipse now. We're now at 30 years already. And I'm very happy to providing you with some of the OSGI insights and some of the OSGI development that has been done over the last year, especially because we are really trying to complete the puzzle whenever necessary and where necessary, strategically partnering with others and having adopters in the market. So I'm very happy to announce our first speaker, which is Rafik HARABI. And I don't want to talk much about it. Liferay actually is adopting OSGI technology at its heart. This is what Rafik will talk about in general. With regard to this summary, there is none. So you probably will need to do a very short profile, a very short introduction of yourself.
Okay, my name is Rafik. I'm Liferay developer. I was being involved in building Portal using Liferay since 6 years or 7 years right now. And actually, I'm working for a French company to build a portal that gathering information from communicating meters. This talk will be about Liferay OSGI because Liferay has adopted OSGI at its framework for Liferay 7, the new version. And this talk will be about how we design Portlets using the OSGI framework. So this is my email, my Twitter account, my GitHub repository. And before we get started, I want to know a little bit about you. If you are, for example, building Portal at Workers. Nobody? Okay, just one guy. If you are using Liferay to build Portal, just one. Okay, 2 person. Okay. You have just heard about Liferay and you want to know more, the rest of the world. Okay, that's awesome. So in the next 30 minutes, I will talk about the Liferay monolithic architecture, the limits of Liferay monolithic architecture, and why we should move to some modular architecture like OSGI. And I will present also the Liferay modular 7 modular architecture, how to build extensible modules on the top of Liferay 7. And finally, lessons learned and takeaways. So, a few words about Liferay for those who didn't know Liferay. Liferay is a Portal product that implement Portlet API 1.0 and 2.0. It's a big product with 5.1 million lines of code. It's a really big product, and it has about 70 out of box portlets. Which provide features like web content management, document management, workflow, search engine also, among others. And Liferay also holds a marketplace that allow community and partners to put their plugins, say, application on the marketplace. And this marketplace has about 500 applications. From a functional point of view, this is the architecture of Liferay. On a Liferay server, you can instantiate many Portal instances. And on the top of Portal instance, you can instantiate different sites, one or many sites. And these sites are composed of pages or layout. It is the Liferay word, which is composed on portlets. That's the modular part of Liferay in the monolithic way. It's the portlet. And each site has different portlet with different preferences that depends on the page and the site. From the architecture point of view, we have the application server. We have one big war, which is the Liferay war, and inside this war, we have the Liferay core services like messaging, caching, LDAP configuration, authentication, and we have out-of-the-box portlet like web content management, wiki, blogs, which also are a part of this big war. And we can deploy our third-party plugins that we have developed or that we get from the marketplace. Let's take a look for the Liferay class loading hierarchy. This is one of the hot subjects while Liferay moving to OSGI framework. Firstly, we have the GDK class loader and the application server class loader, and we have the Liferay class loader, which holds the Portal service implementation, and the Portal service API are held by the application server class loader. And finally, you have different plugins, and each plugin has one or many services. And the problem here is that we cannot communicate between different plugins because of the Portlet API, because of the servlet API that doesn't allow communication between different web applications. And Liferay, this is the class loader of the portal. This is the class loader of the first plugin and of the second plugin. And as you can see, we cannot communicate between different plugins. And Liferay has made some baud rate codes in order to bypass the servlet API, but it doesn't really work well. And many other solutions provided, like moving all the service layer to the application service class loader, but this is still not the best practice to deal with portal services. Let's talk a little bit about portal customization. In fact, the first time when you have to choose a portal, you will check your capability, what you need, what features you need, and then you will choose the portal. And the problem here that the missing part that generally person doesn't think about customization. Why? Because the first time you will never use, for example, this is a blog portlet, you will never use the blog portlet like this. You might perhaps add and extend the menu there, or customizing these buttons, or even adding some entry on the portlet configuration panel. And this is not allowed. This is allowed by the way that it's done, the monolithic. But if you've done some modification, it will be propagated for all the sites and all the portlets. This doesn't allow us to have different configuration depending on the site, on different customers that we have. So in order to have some powerful portal, you should always thinking about that customization should be a first-class citizen, that you can customize depending on your context. Let's take a look about the Liferay releases versus the business agility. Nowadays, you know that customers are always asking to go more fast. We are talking always about continuous delivery, about business agility. And if you see there, between Liferay 6.1 and Liferay 6.2, it would be about more than 1 year. And this is not enough for business agility and for the recurrent incremental charge, because customers are looking to go fast to go fast to market and to access to market more fast. And this is why they are always asking to building services from few months to few days, and why not a few months, and why not for few days. That's why Liferay should adopt a new modular architecture that allows different teams to work on different features and to get these different features on different time, and the customers can adopt this, test it, and deliver it to production. So, a recap of the limitation of the Liferay monolithic architecture. Firstly, invoking services before plugging Portlet, no standard way, and that creates really huge technical debt. Secondly, an all-in-one package. This is one huge package with 230 megabytes, and this is really very huge for web application. Also, we cannot deploy only what we need. For example, if you are just using Portlet to deploy a blog or web content management, you cannot and deploy other features like searching, like workflow. You have to deploy all the Liferay and deal with all the Liferay. Deployment depending on application server. That means that Liferay doesn't manage the life cycle of their modules, because this is depending on the application server. You just push the word to the application server and tell him just please deploy me this word to the and run the context. Scalability, only one-dimensional scalability. That means if you have, for example, one heavy portlet like blogs, there are a lot of people that are reading blogs, and you need to scale Liferay. You have just only one-dimensional scalability, that you cannot just scale the blog portlet. Marketplace. This is made by the overriding of the DSP. If, for example, if you override one DSP, you publish your plugin to the marketplace, another community contributor overrides the same DSP and publish it to the marketplace, and at the end you want to use the two plugins. This will create some conflicts. So let's talk about the modularity promises. What promises modularity for Liferay? First, Portlet independent version from Liferay Portal. That means that we have the Liferay core portal with one version, and we have all the Portlets, the functionality with a different version, and we can deliver this functionality out of the cycle of Liferay core. And this is made available with the OSGI semantic versioning. Second is business agility. That means that you have more frequent delivery of new feature or improvement, and you have different teams that can work on different features decoupled of each other. Contract first approach. That means that you public your portlet, your services as an interface, and you consume them with hiding the implementation. Dynamic extension. That means you don't need to override the Liferay code in order to extend the functionality of the feature. You just add some features, and this should be detected dynamically. Resiliency designed for failure. That means if I have one feature that doesn't work, that doesn't mean that all my portal will be on resiliency. For example, if the search portlet doesn't work, end users can't continue visiting my site by that can't using the search portlet. Enhanced security. For example, if you have some security fixes and you wait the Liferay to get the fix back, what you can do is just to stop this bundle and wait to get the fix back, and not stop the whole portal and have some kind of interruption of services. Patching. This is a very hot subject, because actually if you patch Liferay, you get OR, you get a patching tool, and you just use this patching tool to override the classes on the Liferay portal on the application server. And with the modular way, you just take this bundle, you install the new bundle, and it will be detected automatically and notified by the OSGI service registry. So building microservices. This is small and independent. That means that this is small and independent bundles that can be developed dynamically and deployed dynamically with different teams. So you should make your product powerfully customizable. That's why you should adopt this new modular approach to develop plugins on the top of Liferay. One of the modularity challenges is the communication challenge, but this is resolved by the OSGI framework, because it provides an EVM microservices, and this is done with zero configuration. Just you publish your service to the OSGI framework, and it will be available for consummation by other plugins. Configuration. OSGI framework also provides a configuration service, configuration admin, coupled with the OSGI meta-types, and this is really very useful in order to configure different models. So let's take a look how Liferay go from monolithic to microservices architecture. Firstly, we have the Liferay monolithic architecture, which is a big war with core services like LDAP authentication, messaging, caching, with out-of-the-box portlet like blog, wiki, and on the left side, on the right side, we have the OSGI OSGI container, and Liferay extracts this functionality and put them as a small bundle, small midgets, and subscribe it to OSGI service registry. And this is done for the most of Liferay core services. There is still a work, but this is the big part is done. And of course, this is the same way for the blog and for the wiki. This is divided in 3 blocks: UI, which is representing the portlet; blog API, which is representing the API, the service contract; and the service, which is representing the implementation. And this is the same for the other component. And we will see after that, even for these small bundles, we have such kind of modularity. This is the Liferay 7 modular architecture. We have the application server, we have the OSGI container. There is some still workers, there is some Liferay Portal core services that are not yet extracted. And we have the OSGI container with different modules with different with different standard services like logging, HTTP, config admin. We have the models that have been extracted from the Liferay that going to a OSGI container, and these models are divided on different small bundles. And we have applications, the legacy application that can run inside the OSGI container. And so a little bit about Liferay 7. The actual version, I think it's Alpha 2, but I made my statistic about Alpha 1. There is about 126 bundles, functionalities that are extracted from the Liferay core to the OSGI containers, and there is a number of integration points. Integration points, that means that extension points, this point you can use it in order to extend the core functionality. So the Liferay model framework. The Liferay model framework is built on the top of OSGI model framework, and we have, this is the base path. We have the Liferay model framework. The core folder contains all the features that are made by Liferay in order to run the Liferay model framework. We have the static. This is the library, the bundles that should be started with the Liferay model framework by default. We have Portal. This is all the bundles that have extracted from the Portal to the OSGI framework. Models, this is application. Status, this is the framework persistent repository directory. And we have testing, with which is located in the apps, test utilities, and tools to build some bundles or models. So this is an overview of the Liferay model framework. We have some custom registry in order to register different services and put them available into the OSGI service framework. And this is also done for the Liferay core services that are not yet migrated to OSGI framework, that are available for different bundles that are located into the OSGI containers. The benefits of Liferay model framework. The first is that Liferay 7 on its deployment lifecycle, that Liferay 7 manage the bundle deployment lifecycle. Secondly, dynamically manage the model lifecycle. And thirdly, Liferay models are versioned and explicitly declared dependencies that the model manage these for different bundles. So in order to build models on the top of Liferay 7, we have different OSGI framework. OSGI API is the default OSGI framework, API, Blueprint, iPojo, OSGI Declaratives Services also. And the recommendation from Liferay is to use the Declarative Services, because they consider that this is the best way to build extensible software and maintainable software, but you can still using different other framework like Blueprint or iPojo. So let's see how this is changed from Liferay 6.2 and earlier, which is using Portlet API and using DS annotation in Liferay 7. In Liferay 6.2, we have different configuration file, mainly the portlet.xml file, which is the Portlet descriptor. We have also the Liferay Portlet, which adds some additional functionality to the Portlet. And we have also Liferay Display, which manage the display of the Portlet into the portal. All these configuration made it available in XML file are translated in Liferay 7 to DS Declarative Services component property. As you can see here, all these files, these tags are translated to properties of add component of a declarative service component. And this is and then we publish the Portlet as a service. For the service builder, before Liferay, the service builder are generated inside the Portlet application. We have the API and we have the service implementation. When we go to the modular way, we have the service registry and we have the different vendors, modules, API, service, and tests that are subscribed directly to the service registry. And this is make all the service available without configuration. That means all the services are published to the OS services and are available to different Portlet application using the service registry. Overriding Liferay core services. How to override Liferay core services using OSGI method. Firstly, we define a component that exposes service of type service wrapper. This is the interface, and then we extend the service that we want to override, and then we add the method that we want to override here, just logging the user IP address. Also, the core services can be overriding by adding OSGI service ranking on the top of Liferay. That means that if the portlet supports the default value of OSGI service ranking is 20, and if you want to override some core services, what you should do is to rewrite the service with one service ranking that it's higher to the default one. So Portlet filters. Before, Portlet filters was being located inside the Portlet application. That means if you want to add a Portlet filter or to change the Portlet filter, you should package this one and redeploy it. Actually, this is very hard to implement for out-of-box Portlet. Actually, how it works. We have the Portlet, and we have the Portlet filter outside of the Portlet, and we just define an interface, and we tell I want to write to have a Portlet filter for this Portlet, javax portlet.name, and then I implement one of the filters under filter action filter, and then I get my Portlet filter outside of the bundle, outside of the application, and I can deploy it, undeploy it, change it dynamically. Yeah. This is just a method. So let's take a talking example about splitting monolithic application into small bundles or microservices. This is the form builder of Liferay. It's called a dynamic data list. And on the previous version, on Liferay 6.2, we have the monolithic application, which is one big application. And in 7.2, all these small types are translated in small jars that each types can be dealing separately. That means that, for example, this is the boolean, one jar, a checkbox, the radio box, of course, one jar, text also, and select. And this different jar, we can deal with it dynamically. I mean that if I want to add my custom type, I just develop my custom type. I subscribe it to the service that deal with the dynamic data mapping, and I will get it. Of course, if I want to disable one or more component, I can do it easily without touching the core of Liferay. Portal configuration API. Before, Liferay holds one big portal configuration file, call it portal.properties. It holds about 10,000 lines of code, and this is the drawbacks of this big file is that it doesn't have types. That means that property cannot be typed, and you should restart every time if you want to change one of this property. Every time you should restart your application server. And we have also, this is a big file. We have auto portlet preferences, which is XML based and also doesn't support types. The new way of portal configuration API is using OSGI configuration admin coupled with OSGI meta type. This is give us that the property are typed. Property as well separated by module. Each module has its own configuration service. Dynamically load property on the right time. We haven't to restart the portal application each time then we have changed one or more properties. So this is the legacy way with different properties in portal.property file, and this is the new way we define the configuration service, and then we define different entries, which is typed like string, like their int and int. And this will be scoped for different scopes that it will be available at the portal instance level, at the site level, and at the portlet level. Actually, I think it's just done for the system level. And then if you want to change this property, this configuration, you can do it through the Liferay config admin portlet. This is like Apache Felix Web Console. And or you can just define a file that defines the ID of the configuration. You create a config file like this, and then you put them the property. If I want to change, for example, the email that I use to send emails through the content, the journal content portlet, I just put this file, deploy it to the Liferay model framework, and this property would be changed. UI customization and extension. UI customization and extension. This is very important, because before, if you want to extend one or more UI component, you override GSP. This is not more done with Liferay 7, because this is where Liferay has built a different extension point in order to extend the UI. One of it is the dynamic include. Liferay it dynamic include that inject different pieces of GSP or different pieces or any templating language in the out-of-box portlet. Let's take an example, and this is provide better configuration. Let's take an example that if you want to extend one or more feature of the CK editor, what we can do, firstly, we can define the key, define the content editor, the configuration, and then I will just apply this for the editor or the UI, CK editor, or any third-party editor that I use with Liferay. And then I define the portlets. That means, for example, here I tell to the model framework just apply this for portlet number 33, which is a blog portlet, and for example, my custom portlet. And I publish this as editor config contributor, which is made available by Liferay. And then I put my service ranking in order to be sure that this will be the default service that will be exposed to the requests. And this is the implementation. For example, here I just get the object, I get the toolbar, and I add just one button, which is called camera. From the dev tools, Liferay by default using B&D tools to build OSGI models. There is a Liferay project called Blade Tools, which is a Liferay tool in order to build specific bundles to the Liferay portal. And there is also Liferay provider also sets of plugins to build custom models like Service SQL Builder or Service Builder, or upgrading SQL tables. Some useful resources. Firstly, we have the Liferay Developer Network. It's really important. It's you can get full information on the Liferay Developer Network, examples with different working examples. We have also the Liferay DevCon website. It is the annual conference of Liferay. There is a lot of useful video. And the Liferay Blade project is a project which provides some elementary examples of building bundles in Liferay 7. And we have also the Liferay Blade tool. Okay, the Liferay Blade tool is to build models. So, conclusion. As a conclusion, the first, if you want to modelize your project, you should be realistic. That means that you should go, you cannot directly get one platform with microservices, with orchestration, with distributed deployment. the first thing that you should think about is having an EVM microservices that you modularize your product, but it will be on the same VM. It doesn't make matter. It will be working better. And then you're thinking from other concepts like distributed deployment or orchestration. Secondly, choose robust tools and standard. I think that OSGI is one of the best tools for Java world to modularize software. And provide dev tools and migration tools. That's really very important for your customer, that if you don't provide these tools, never one will go and migrate their portal to Liferay 7 because they don't want to rewrite all the portal or refactor all the portal in order to be compatible with the new version. Liferay 7 has made a set of tools that you can bring your legacy plugins, put it on Liferay 7, and it will work. And then you have the time to migrate in the modular way. Focus on single responsibility principle. That means that if each bundle should have only one responsibility, and it will be responsible for only one functionality. Takeaways. That's very important that each add component, I think there is more than 1,000 components in Liferay. Each add component can be customized. That's the product is coming very, very powerful, and you can customize more of the portal functionality, so that you should keep this in mind, that you can customize a lot on Liferay Portal 7. Reusable components. Many of components are usable. If you want to build your own portlet, you don't build it from scratch. Use this reusable component and build your own portlet. And take in mind that you can customize and extend out of the box features without modifying the Liferay core. Thank you. If you have some questions. It's okay. Okay. Yeah.
Why did it take so long to Liferay switch to OSGI? Why didn't they do this before?
Yeah, I think that the work was begun on 2011 by providing the infrastructure, or 2012. I think that Ray Oj, who is sitting behind, it's the man behind all these changes in Liferay. I think it will have the response more than me. No. Okay, for me, I will give you my response, and then you can ask the same question to Ray Oj in the next session. For me, I think that Liferay is a big product. As you can see, there is 5.1 million lines of code. There is about 70 out-of-the-box functionality with different core services like caching, clustering, messaging, and this is take a while in order to build some infrastructure. And on the top of the infrastructure, we can build some modular application and go fast. I think this is why Liferay has taken a while between changing from the monolithic way to modular way. And okay, that's other question. Yeah. The OSGI framework. Okay, I think when you launch the application server, actually when you launch the application server, you launch the OSGI framework. Yeah.
it's actually an embedded framework in the wall.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So it follows the life cycle of our application.
Okay.
Any other questions? Well, then I have one final question. You're with Innosphere using Liferay.
Yeah, we are doing consulting for companies in Paris.
Okay.
Yeah.
But as I've seen in your bio that it was available at different locations.
Yeah.
You've set up around about 10 to 15 different portals using the Liferay product. Is this correct?
Yeah.
Can you disclose any names, any company names?
Yeah, I have worked, for example, for Electricity of France, Vinci Construction, BNP Bank. There is a lot of, I think in France there is 39 out of 40 big companies that are using Liferay. In France, it's a very popular product. All the companies, all the big customers are using insurance, banking, even ministry, education, even diplomacy. They are using Liferay as a portal for different wide range of functionalities.
Thank you. Last round for questions? None?
Yeah, thank you.